The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are continuing with our playthroughs of the prologue of The Circle Undone. That's right, today we are playing with Valentino Rivas, who is the neutral investigator who has all the rogue cards. Just a quick note, the channel celebrated its second anniversary this week. I was hoping to be able to have an episode ready for the anniversary. Unfortunately, real life got in the way, so we are recording it tonight. Thanks to everyone out there for making the channel a huge success over the past 2 years. And here is to another year ahead of us. Let's jump into the game here. Valentino is the wealthy philanthropist. He has 1 willpower, 3 intellect, 2 combat, and 4 agility. Obviously, very good in the agility department, not so much in the willpower, but that 3 intellect will go a long way to helping him avoid a lot of those haunted ability triggers. He has the Silver, Twilight, and Socialite traits. He has the Frig triggered ability. During a skill test you are performing, spend 2 resources. Reduce the difficulty of this test by 1, limit once per round. He also has the Elder Sign effect, +1, gain 2 resources. He has 5 health and 7 sanity. Each of the neutral investigators usually gets something in their starting play area. Valentino starts with a copy of Well Connected, the rogue asset from the Circle Undone, which is quite good. And his opening hand has the 41 Derringer, which is not as useful. Opportunist as well. It's going to be tricky to, or difficult to succeed by 3 in this particular scenario. A copy of Sure Gamble, which will come in very handy. 2 copies of Money Talks, which allows us to make resource skill tests, which is obviously very good for Valentino. And 2 copies of Cunning, the skill with a variable number of skill icons, and as long as we have 10 or more resources in our resource pool, we can use it as 3 intellect or I think it's 3 willpower. We'll have to check with that. We are set up here and ready to go in Octagon. Let me see. No intellect and agility. My mistake there. That's the Cunning card. As long as we have 10 or more resources, we get 3 intellect and 3 agility icons, which is obviously very good. We are set up here. We have Valentino. He begins the game with 10 resources, which is awesome considering all of the cards that he has that depend on how many resources he has in play. That is awesome. His copy of Well Connected. However, we do start the game with a copy of Shadowhound in our threat area. Fortunately, the Shadowhound only has 2 fight, 3 health, and more importantly, 1 evade, which is going to be huge because we can get away from this guy. He has the Monster and Spectral traits. His prey is the lowest agility, and he has Hunter and Retaliate. He does not have Alert, though, so if we do fail an evade check against him, he will not attack us. He has the Forced effect. After Shadowhound attacks you, resolve each haunted ability on your location. Hopefully he will not be attacking us all that much this game if we can get away from him. That's our plan. We also begin the game with the Spectral Hunter in play. You are its prey. It has 3 fight, 5 health, and 3 evade, Ancient One, Spectral, and Elite traits. It does have Alert, so Valentino will need to tiptoe by this guy if he does not want to be damaged. And he, of course, has the Hunter keyword, as many of the enemies in this particular cycle seem to have. Hopefully that will not be running throughout the entire cycle. The maps seem quite large, but when you've got a lot of hunters to deal with, it can get quite small quite quickly. The Spectral Watcher has the Forced effect. When the Spectral Watcher is defeated, instead of discarding it, heal all damage from it, disengage it from all investigators, and exhaust it. It does not ready during the upkeep phase this round. It will hit you for a damage and a horror. It's highly unlikely that we are going to be able to kill the Spectral Watcher at any point during this scenario, considering all we have is a 41 Derringer, and the 41 Derringer only gives you +1 damage if you happen to hit, if you succeed by 2 or more in your skill test. So I think killing the Spectral Watcher is going to be a little out of our league in this one, and so we will have to... I'm not even sure if I'm going to play the Derringer, to be honest. We only have 3 ammo, and there are usually a lot of enemies, and Valentino has the agility to evade most everything, so we'll probably just stick with his evasion here. We also start with a Treachery in play. This is Terror in the Night. It has the Terror and Spectral traits. Revelation test for willpower. Obviously, this is terrible for Valentino. If you fail, put Terror in the Night into play next to your agenda deck. If you fail by 3 or more, Terror in the Night gains Surge. And if there are 3 copies of Terror in the Night next to the agenda deck, discard them, and each investigator takes 3 horror. We are starting with 1 copy in play, so if we draw the other 2 and fail the skill tests, which seems highly likely, considering that Valentino only has 1 willpower, we will have to lose 3 horror at some point this game. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Valentino starts play here at the billiards room. It's a 3 shroud location with 1 clue. Spectral trait, of course, and it has the haunted ability. You must either discard an asset you control or take 1 damage. We do have the 1 asset in play. I'm hoping that between Valentino's his base skill value of 3 as well as the cunning in his hand, he will be able to investigate this without triggering the haunted ability. Although you never know, I have had some terrible luck in playing these prologues with draws from the Chaos Bag, so at this point I have no idea. We are playing Agenda 1A Judgment 20. There is no escaping your fate. Hear the call and be reborn. It has the forced effect after Doom is placed on any card, and that includes the agenda. Each investigator must either take 1 damage or 1 horror, 2 damage or 2 horror instead if there are 5 or more Doom in play. So this gets progressively more painful as the scenario goes on. Our act is 1A, the Disappearance. And when an investigator is eliminated, place each of the investigator's clues on this act instead of his or her location. As you're probably aware by now, that's the only real thing you can do in this, is just try to gather as many clues as possible. I think I only got 1 with Gabriella and 1 with Jerome, so we'll be aiming to beat that here with Valentino. We are playing Disappearance at the Twilight Estate on standard difficulty. The only token we really have to worry about is the skull, which is a -3. And if you fail, and this is an attack or evasion attempt, resolve each haunted ability on your location. Obviously, that evasion may come into play at some point during this scenario. I think we're ready to go here. We've got our opening hand of 7 cards. Valentino is here at the billiards room. Let's give him his 3 actions to start off the game. I think our the first thing we have to do, obviously, is to evade the Shadow Hound. So we will be going 3 versus 1. Now, the question is, if we pitch the Opportunist to it, we might get the Opportunist back, but we'd have to succeed by 3 or more, which is, that is going to be, we'd be 5 versus 1. Let's pitch the Opportunist to this skill test. Let's see what happens here. Chaos Bag gives us an Elder Sign right off the bat. That is awesome. The Elder Sign is a +1, and we gain 2 resources. Awesome. And because we committed the Opportunist and succeeded by 3 or more, we get to return that to our hand. That is great. Great start. Let us exhaust this guy and move him to the billiard room. That was our first action. Our second action is going to be, we're going to investigate. Let's go. We're going to commit a cunning for sure for the 3 intellect skill icons, because we've got 10 resources. We can also, we could spend 2 to reduce the difficulty of the test and use Well Connected. I think our plan is just to investigate here and then move over to the trophy room. So we might as well do that. Let's spend the 2 resources to reduce the difficulty of the skill test, so it's a 2, and then we will also exhaust well connected, so we get +1 for each resource, every 5 resources we have. So that will be 3, 6, 7, 8 versus 2. I like those odds. The only thing that can beat us here is the auto fail. Let's see what happens. We get a 0. Whew, no, we avoid the whole Jerome Davids situation from last game. That's awfully nice. So we do grab this clue. We will, that was our second action. As our third action, we're going to move to the trophy room. I do like Valentino's positioning in this particular scenario, just because he starts here at the billiard room. He's at the end, and he can basically just run across the map. He doesn't, I think with Jerome, he starts in the office, which gets kind of tricky because then you've got to decide which way to go, and you've got obviously enemies to evade and deal with and stuff like that. I just like this straight shot that Valentino can make right across the map. If we can get away from the Spectral Watcher once, we won't really have to deal with him for the rest of the scenario. Hopefully, cross our fingers, and we'll go from there. The trophy room is a 2-shroud location with 1 clue, and it has the haunted ability. Lose 2 resources for each resource you cannot lose from this effect. We take 1 horror. That looks like it's going to be our turn. During the our enemy phase, the Spectral Watcher is going to move up to Victorian Halls. During the upkeep, the Shadow Hound will ready. We will ready our well-connected and gain a resource as well. We will advance, and we'll add a doom, so we have to take a damage or a horror. I'm going to take a horror to start things off, and we will simply draw our first encounter card, which is going to be Watcher's Grasp. Oh, this is, I've seen this one in the Gavriella playthrough, I believe. Power Spectral Traits, heal 3 damage from the Spectral Watcher, ready the Spectral Watcher. It moves, engages, and attacks as if it were the enemy phase. Throughout the resolution of this effect, the Spectral Watcher gains Pray You. So he readies, comes over, attacks us, so we take an automatic damage and horror. He doesn't trigger any haunted abilities, thankfully. That will be that. All right, so we've got a Watcher to deal with this turn. That is a little... I wasn't expecting to have to deal with this guy now, but we're going to have to deal with him at some point during this scenario, so we might as well deal with him now. If we can evade him, then we can move over to Victorian. We can grab this clue first of all, and then move over to Victorian Halls, and hopefully that way we can put these 2 hunters behind us for the rest of the game. However, we are going to need a little bit of help to evade this guy because he does have 3 agility and or 3 evade, sorry. So we will go, I think we'll go Money Talks or on this one. So that will give us a 4 plus oh, it's not going to help us that much. We get a 5 that way. We could go Opportunist. That would put us at 5-3. And then we could rely on the Sure Gamble if we need it. Our other option, of course, is the Cunning. But I'd rather save the Cunning for a... like our skill test for the Investigate action would be 3 versus 1 at the moment. Or 3 versus 2. We could make it... we could go 4 versus 2. Is it worth spending the Cunning? Because if he gets us, he's going to really get us, and I'm not a big fan of that. Let's commit a cunning. We really need to. This is a huge test. We're also going to commit the opportunist here, just to make sure we can get away from this guy. That's going to be a 4, 7, 8 versus 3. Chaos Bag gives us a excuse me, a -3. So that is going to be a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 -3 is 5. So we do not succeed by 3, unfortunately, but we do evade the Spectral Watcher, which is what we really needed to do here. All right, we need this clue. We are currently a 3 versus 2. Second action, we could go... If we exhaust our well-connected, we'd be at... If we exhaust the well-connected now the sequence is important here. We want to use our well-connected first, so we can go add +1 skill for every 5 resources, so we get 2. So we are a 5 versus 2 at the moment. Then we can spend 2 resources with Valentino's free trigger to get 5 versus 1. Chaos Bag says, oh, we get another Elder Sign. That is great. Holy, 2 Elder Signs and no auto fails yet. So that is wicked. We get another 2 resources out of that. And we grab this clue. Okay, we've got 2 clues so far. Already Valentino is doing the best of any of the investigators that we have played in this prologue. Third action, we're moving. We're getting out of there. We'll flip over the Victorian Halls. It is a 4-shroud location with 0 clues, and it has the haunted ability, lose 1 action. No clues here, fortunately, so we don't have to investigate. But there are cards, of course, in the encounter deck that can hose us if we happen to draw them here. Let's bring Valentino to the front. During the enemy phase, the Spectral, or the Shadow Hound, I want to always call him the Spectral Hound for some reason. He will move, and during the upkeep phase, we ready. We ready all the enemies, and we will gain a resource. And I think that's all we have to do. We will simply add a Doom. And we will take another damage or a horror. I think we're taking horror here. So we're 3 of 7. And I think we're ready to draw our encounter card. Encounter card for this turn is going to be, oh, nice, Obscuring Fog. That's going to pretty much whiff because it goes on the Victorian Halls. And it will make it a Shroud 3 location, but we don't care about that because we're not going to do any investigating here. So that is fantastic. Getting very fortunate with the encounter deck draws here. So that is, of all the cards in the encounter deck, that is probably the one that I would love to see right about now. All right, it is our third turn. We will use an action, of course, first off to move to the master bedroom. We are going to flip that over. It is a 3-shroud location with 1 clue, and it has the spectral trait Haunted. Place 1 of your clues on the master bedroom. It's worth a victory point. Of course, victory points don't count for anything in this scenario because we can't keep them. So all that really matters is grabbing that clue. 3-shroud location. We can actually reduce that to a 2 if we want, using Valentino's ability. And we can use Well Connected as well. So let's do that. So he will go. We are 3, 4, 5 with Well Connected. And 5 versus 2. I like those odds, especially with the with that skull being a -3. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has to say. Chaos Bag gives us another Elder Sign. 3 Elder Signs. Excuse me, banging the mic here. 3 Elder Signs in one game. That is I don't think that's happened to me before in a game like this. So again, we gained 2 resources. Incredible luck here. I guess this is payoff for the terrible luck we had during the Jerome Davids game. So we grab another clue. What else can we do? Wow, I wasn't expecting that. We might as well just keep on trucking here. We have 1 action remaining. We'll move to the balcony. Flip it over. It's a 1 shroud location with 1 clue. And it has the haunted ability. Each of your cards with health take 1 direct damage. And that does include your player card because it does have health on it. So far, no complaints. I mean, we're having a fantastic game here. During the enemy phase, both of our hunters are going to move. We'll just tuck them back there. We know they're there. So this raises an interesting possibility. We can grab this clue. Maybe it's worth trying to go back through them, and maybe we can get to the office and have a clean sweep. That would be fantastic. I haven't done that before, so let's see if we can't manage that. Enemies have moved, so we go to the upkeep. We'll grab another resource. We're up to 13. That just means we've got a little bit more flexibility with Well Connected and Valentino's free triggered ability. We will add another Doom. We're up to 3. We take a damage or horror. I think we're still taking horror. Although if we take another horror and then we end up surging into 2 copies of Terror in the Night, we would be at risk of being dead. So I am going to actually take a damage in this case, just to stay away, to prevent that possibility from happening. We do have some cards in our hand that can help us. Obviously, the Money Talks is going to be huge, and that Sure Gamble as well. So I think we are ready to draw a card. It is going to be, there is Shapes in the Mist. It will surge. Resolve each haunted ability on your location. So this balcony, each of your cards takes 1 direct damage. So we will take a damage. All right, and it surges. It surges into another Obscuring Fog. Okay, so that's not as good as the last one, unfortunately. It will affect us here. Let's move that to the back. So this is now a 3 shroud location instead of a 1 shroud location. So we did have it on Easy Street, but now we're going to have to actually do some work here to grab this clue. However, we can make it a 2 shroud location, and we can boost our. Now, what do we want to do here? We could reduce it. We could go up to 5 intellect versus 2. I like those odds, so let's do that. We'll spend the 2, and we will exhaust Well Connected. So we are at +2 from Well Connected, so 5, and this is going to be a 2 shroud location. So 5 versus 2. Chaos Bag says, of course, there's the auto fail. Was waiting for that to show up at some point this game. We can't draw 3 Elder Signs and not have an auto fail show up to ruin the party at some point. So we will have to trigger this haunted ability. Again, we take another damage, and unfortunately that is 4 damage out of 5. So, can Valentino grab this? Yeah, and unfortunately, none of our Sure Gamble doesn't help us in this situation. So, do we try again? We might as well. There's really no. We could go. We could play Money Talks, although I do want to... Okay, I need to think about this for a second. If we fail this, if we fail another skill test here, we're going to die. So we need to make sure we pass it, which means we need to be at least 4 up before we pull. Right now we're 3 versus 3. Getting 4 up is going to be tough, pretty tough. We can play Money Talks to get us to a 5, and then we'd be just riding Sure Gamble. That's pretty much all we can do. So let's do that. We'll play Money Talks to get us to a 5. Valentino's ability is once per round, I assume. So we are a 5 versus 3, which is better than nothing, and we've got our Sure Gamble. That's really all we got. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has to say. Chaos Bag gives us... Well, that was a fun game. What can you do? I mean, we drew three Elder Signs, and then we drew 2 auto fails back to back. Like, that's... Sometimes you just have to laugh. I mean, if you don't laugh, the game will drive you mad. That's all it is. Some real crazy RNG there in this game. So we will take another damage and end up dying to the balcony. That was not a damage. That was a horror. That was a damage. So my plan on taking a damage there didn't quite work out. I ended up killing myself. But, I mean, I pulled 2 auto fails in a row. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. So, that was Valentino Rivas. Of the three neutral investigators that I've played so far, I like Valentino the most. I think he's got all the sort of tools he needs to grab a lot of clues. The 2 copies of Cunning and that Well Connected are awesome. Sure Gamble is great if you're not pulling auto fails. And of course Money Talks is nice as well, especially if you have a lot of resources like he starts out with. And as long as there's not a lot of pressure to spend those resources, which in the case this game, I didn't really need to spend them. Unfortunately, I just got bad pulls, and sometimes that happens in this game. And so we will, hopefully it's entertaining for you guys to see, to watch it. Certainly, I love when situations like this happen. I mean, it's just, sometimes this game is crazy. So, that was Valentino's run. I will be doing Penny White's run through this scenario sometime in the near future. I'm hoping to get to it at some point this weekend. I am playing in a I guess an invocation event in Edmonton tomorrow night on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to that, to meeting some players and hanging out and playing the game with some real cards for a change, since I mostly play on Octagon. And I also have my reviews for the player cards in the Circle Undone. That will be coming out, I believe, this week. And I also have, in addition to all that, we've got the playthroughs for the other 2 scenarios in this box, as well as all the playthroughs for the Return to the Dunwich Legacy. I'm really looking forward to getting to those, just because I do enjoy playing that particular campaign. So I'm looking forward to that. So I hope you will join me for all of that content as the channel enters its 3rd year, which is, again, thanks to everyone out there for making the channel what it is. There wouldn't be a channel without you guys and gals out there to support it. So thank you very much. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromleng@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromleng. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.